Across the vast and diverse Muslim world, from the ancient streets of Cairo to the bustling markets of Jakarta, from the resilient neighborhoods of Gaza to the rising mosques of Europe and America, a subtle yet undeniable shift is underway. It is not a political movement that can be easily charted on electoral maps, nor a social trend confined to hashtags and headlines. It is something deeper, spiritual, and intellectual awakening that transcends borders, ideologies, and generations. For decades, the narrative surrounding the Muslim world has been dominated by stories of division, decline, and despair. The collapse of the Ottoman Caliphate in the early 20th century ushered in a long era of fragmentation, colonization, and imposed secularism. Muslim lands were carved up, identities diluted, and centuries-old traditions marginalized. Many Muslims were left searching for meaning in the ruins of their once glorious civilization. Yet, history teaches that every period of decline carries within it the seeds of renewal. Today, those seeds are sprouting across the Ummah. What was once dismissed as isolated flickers of faith and resilience has grown into a global phenomenon. The signs are everywhere in the resurgence of Quranic literacy, the revival of Islamic arts and scholarship, the growing political consciousness among Muslim youth, and the unprecedented levels of unity and solidarity shown in times of crisis. This is not the result of coincidence or chance. The unfolding of this awakening is part of a divine plan that operates beyond the calculations of political analysts and the predictions of global think tanks. As Muslims reconnect with their faith and heritage, they are beginning to reclaim not only their spiritual dignity, but also their role as contributors to the global community. This moment is not without its challenges. The forces of division, extremism, and geopolitical manipulation are still at work, seeking to derail this awakening, but the momentum is undeniable. It is being driven not from the top down by governments or elites, but from the ground up by ordinary Muslims rediscovering the timeless beauty and relevance of Islam in their daily lives. The Ummah is stirring from its slumber, guided by the eternal message of the Quran and the living example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. What is happening across the Muslim world today is no coincidence. It is the beginning of a new chapter in a story that spans 14 centuries and continues to unfold before our very eyes. To understand the profound awakening currently taking place across the Muslim world, one must first grasp the century of struggle and change that preceded it. The story begins in the waning days of the Ottoman Empire, the last great Islamic caliphate, whose fall in 1924 marked not only the end of political unity for Muslims but also a symbolic rupture in the historical continuity of the Ummah. For over 6 centuries, the Ottoman Caliphate had served as a unifying force, imperfect though it was, connecting diverse Muslim peoples under a shared spiritual and political framework. Its dissolution left a vacuum that was eagerly filled by colonial powers who descended upon Muslim lands with calculated precision. Through treaties, mandates, and military campaigns, European empires carved up vast swaths of territory from North Africa to Southeast Asia, imposing artificial borders and foreign systems of governance. In the decades that followed, Muslims endured a relentless assault on their cultural, religious, and political identities. Colonial administrators often sought to suppress Islamic education, undermine traditional institutions, and promote secular ideologies. Local elites were co-opted, and the indigenous social fabric was systematically weakened. The trauma of colonialism was not merely economic or territorial, it struck at the heart of Muslim self-understanding. In this environment, the ideals of secular nationalism took root. Leaders such as Ataturk in Turkey, Nasser in Egypt, and Bourguiba in Tunisia championed visions of modernity that often entailed sidelining Islam from public life. Mosques were emptied of political relevance, Islamic law was replaced by imported legal codes, and religious scholars were marginalized. The promise of progress through secularism captivated many, weary from the humiliations of colonial rule and and eager to reclaim national pride. Yet this experiment, though potent in its early years, proved unable to satisfy the deeper yearnings of Muslim societies. The disillusionment grew as secular regimes became increasingly authoritarian and corrupt, failing to deliver on their promises of justice, dignity, and prosperity. Amidst this backdrop, voices calling for a return to Islam as a comprehensive way of life began to resonate. Early revivalist movements such as the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Jamaat-e-Islami in the Indian subcontinent, and various Sufi and Salafi currents sought to re-anchor Muslim identity and faith. Though these movements were diverse in approach and sometimes faced severe repression, they kept alive the hope of renewal. Parallel to these political currents, cultural forces were also at work. The waves of migration, both forced and voluntary, led to the formation of new Muslim communities in Europe and the Americas. In these diasporas, Islam often became a vital marker of identity, preserved and transmitted amidst foreign cultural landscapes. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 sent shockwaves through the Muslim world, proving that Islam could once again serve as a powerful force of mobilization and governance. However, it also unleashed new geopolitical rivalries and ideological divisions that continue to reverberate today. Throughout the late 20th century, the Muslim world grappled with the twin challenges of external intervention and internal fragmentation. The Cold War saw Muslim lands become battlegrounds for proxy conflicts, with devastating consequences. Afghanistan became a crucible of resistance against Soviet invasion, fostering a global network of jihadist fighters. The Gulf Wars, the invasion of Iraq, and the so-called War on Terror further destabilized the region, sowing chaos and deepening sectarian strife. At the same time, globalization brought both opportunities and new forms of cultural encroachment. The rapid spread of Western media and consumerism exposed Muslim societies to alien values, while also providing new platforms for Islamic expression. Against this tumultuous backdrop, the seeds of today's awakening were quietly taking root. Advances in communication technology enabled Muslims from different corners of the globe to connect, share ideas, and foster a renewed sense of transnational solidarity. Islamic scholarship found new audiences online, bypassing traditional gatekeepers. The failures of both secular nationalism and violent extremism prompted a growing number of Muslims to seek a balanced pathone that honors tradition while engaging with the modern world. This historical journey is essential to understanding why the current moment feels so charged with possibility. It has been shaped by a century of trials that tested the resilience of the Ummah and exposed the limitations of alternative ideologies. The longing for authentic spiritual and social renewal is not a fleeting reaction, but the product of generations who have witnessed the highs and lows of their collective experience. From the ashes of past defeats and disappointments, a new consciousness is emerging, rooted in faith, informed by history, and oriented toward a more hopeful future. The story of the Ummah is one of endurance, and after a century of struggle and change, it is now entering a new phase, one that holds the promise of a deeper and more lasting awakening. Across the Muslim world today, a profound shift is underway within the political landscape, signaling that the long-anticipated awakening of the Ummah is no longer a distant dream but an unfolding reality. For decades, political expression in Muslim-majority countries was either stifled by authoritarian regimes or channeled through ideologies that marginalized Islamic values. The secular nationalisms that once dominated political discourse have shown their limits. The disillusionment with these models is no longer confined to intellectual circles. It has penetrated deep into the consciousness of ordinary Muslims. People yearn for governance that reflects their moral values and cultural heritage, not merely imported frameworks that have too often served corrupt elites rather than the masses. This yearning is now translating into tangible political movements and shifts. In numerous countries, public opinion surveys reveal a steady and growing inclination toward Islamic values, as a guiding force in governance. This is not necessarily a call for theocratic rule in the rigid sense often portrayed by Western media, but a widespread desire for policies that align with principles of justice, compassion, accountability, and public welfare as envisioned in the Islamic tradition. This phenomenon is particularly pronounced among younger generations, who, despite their exposure to global secular culture, increasingly reject the hollow promises of Westernization without roots. Recent electoral trends across the Muslim world offer clear evidence of this awakening. In several countries, parties and movements that explicitly or implicitly draw on Islamic principles are gaining momentum, even when faced with entrenched political establishments and systemic obstacles. Where free elections are permitted, the ballot box increasingly reflects a public hunger for governance that honors Islamic identity while addressing modern challenges. Even in states where political Islam has faced repression, underground networks and civil society organizations continue to cultivate awareness and readiness for a future where faith and governance can harmoniously coexist. Grassroots movements are playing a vital role in this transformation. No longer confined to traditional political parties, the Islamic revival now finds expression in a myriad of civic initiatives, from neighborhood associations to charity organizations, from student groups to online activism. These decentralized efforts reflect the organic nature of the awakening. It is not being orchestrated by a single authority but emerging from the collective will of the people. This bottom-up dynamic makes it more resilient and less susceptible to co-option or suppression. One of the most remarkable aspects of this political reawakening is its ability to transcend national boundaries. Muslims across different countries are increasingly aware of their shared struggles and aspirations. Events in one part of the Ummah often resonate deeply in others, fostering a sense of global solidarity. The Palestinian cause, for instance, continues to galvanize Muslims worldwide, uniting diverse communities in a common moral stance against oppression. Similarly, the plight of the Rohingya, Uyghurs, and other persecuted Muslim minorities has spurred unprecedented transnational advocacy and mobilization. This pan-Islamic consciousness is not merely emotional, it is also shaping political discourse. In many countries, debates about foreign policy, trade, and cultural exchange are being informed by a renewed awareness of Muslim unity and interests. Leaders who ignore this shift do so at their peril. Increasingly, Muslim electorates expect their governments to act in alignment with the broader aspirations of the Ummah, not merely in service to narrow national or external agendas. The failures of secular governance models have played a critical role in fueling this awakening. Across the Arab world, the so-called Arab Spring initially carried the banner of liberal democratic reform but quickly revealed the deep disconnect between imported political structures and the cultural fabric of Muslim societies. In the aftermath of these upheavals, many Muslims have reassessed their political priorities, seeking models of governance that are authentically rooted in their values while remaining open to constructive engagement with the global community. This reassessment is also evident in the realm of constitutional and legal reform. In various countries, there is a growing movement to revisit legal frameworks and align them more closely with Islamic principles. This does not imply a wholesale rejection of modern legal norms, but rather an effort to ensure that justice, equity, and moral integrity, core tenets of the Sharia, are meaningfully incorporated into public life. The conversation around Sharia today is more nuanced and sophisticated than the caricatures often presented in Western media. It encompasses debates on human rights, gender justice, economic ethics, and environmental stewardship, reflecting the dynamic and evolving understanding of Islamic governance in the modern era. The impact of failed secular experiments is particularly visible in the economic sphere. Rampant corruption, inequality, and exploitation have eroded public trust in regimes that pay lip service to modernization while perpetuating systemic injustice. In response, Islamic economic models emphasizing principles such as zakat, prohibition of riba, and ethical investment are gaining traction. The rise of Islamic banking and finance is one tangible manifestation of this trend, but more broadly, there is a growing demand for economic policies that serve the common good rather than elite interests. Another driving force behind the political awakening is the increasing engagement of Muslim youth. This generation, shaped by both the digital revolution and the failures of past political paradigms, is uniquely positioned to bridge tradition and modernity. Young Muslims are leveraging social media to articulate a vision of politics that is informed by Islamic values, while addressing contemporary challenges such as climate change, technological ethics, and social justice. Their activism often bypasses traditional party structures, creating new forms of political engagement that are fluid, inclusive, and deeply connected to the moral imperatives of their faith. Importantly, this awakening is not without its tensions and complexities. The political landscape of the Muslim world remains deeply fragmented, with competing ideologies, sectarian divisions, and external interventions complicating the path forward. Moreover, the legacy of authoritarianism has left many societies wary of political Islam being exploited for power rather than principle. Navigating these challenges requires wisdom, patience, and a commitment to the higher goals of justice and unity. Yet despite these obstacles, the momentum is unmistakable. The political awakening of the Ummah is being shaped by a profound realization that Islam offers not only personal spiritual guidance but also a comprehensive vision for social and political life. This realization is driving a new generation of Muslims to demand governance that reflects their values, honors their history, and aspires toward a future rooted in justice and compassion. What is happening across the political landscape of the Muslim world today is not a fleeting reaction to current events, but the fruit of a long and arduous journey through oppression, experimentation, and rediscovery. It is a testament to the enduring vitality of the Islamic tradition and the unyielding spirit of the Ummah. As Muslims continue to awaken to their collective potential, the political dimensions of this awakening will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in shaping the future of not only Muslim societies but the global order itself. The path ahead will require perseverance and vigilance, but the direction is clear: a renewed commitment to governance that embodies the timeless values of Islam in service to all of humanity. As the Muslim world experiences a profound political and spiritual awakening, an equally powerful cultural renaissance is unfolding. It is reshaping language, arts, and identity across communities that have long endured cultural dislocation and marginalization. This renaissance is not driven by governments or grand institutions, but by the collective efforts of artists, scholars, and ordinary Muslims who are reclaiming their heritage and expressing it in new and vibrant ways. The revival of language is one of the most visible aspects of this cultural shift. For much of the 20th century, colonial and post-colonial governments promoted European languages at the expense of Arabic, Persian, Urdu, Malay, and other indigenous tongues of the Muslim world. Language was a tool of control, a means of severing younger generations from the texts and traditions that had sustained their ancestors. In many places, Arabic was reduced to a liturgical language, disconnected from daily life and creative expression. Today, this trend is being reversed. Across the Arab world, there is a renewed emphasis on Arabic literacy, not only in religious contexts but in literature, media, and education. Young Muslims are taking pride in mastering classical Arabic, enabling them to access the Quran and vast bodies of Islamic scholarship directly. Beyond Arabic, regional Islamic languages are also experiencing a renaissance. In Turkey, the revival of Ottoman Turkish script and literature is gaining interest among a new generation eager to reconnect with their imperial and Islamic past. In South Asia, poets and writers are breathing new life into Urdu, blending its rich literary heritage with contemporary concerns. In Malaysia and Indonesia, Bahasa Melayu is being celebrated as a carrier of Islamic values and identity. resisting homogenization by global media. Through this linguistic revival, Muslims are reclaiming the narrative of their cultures, asserting the beauty and depth of their languages in a world often dominated by English and other colonial tongues. Parallel to this linguistic resurgence is a blossoming of Islamic arts. For centuries, Islamic civilization contributed some of the most stunning achievements in architecture, calligraphy, music, and visual design. Yet modernity, shaped by Western paradigms, often dismissed or devalued these forms. Today, Muslim artists are once again drawing inspiration from their own traditions, merging timeless motifs with contemporary techniques. In architecture, the return to traditional Islamic aesthetics is evident in the construction of new mosques that honor historical designs while incorporating modern materials. In cities from Kuala Lumpur to Doha, architects are crafting spaces that reflect both spiritual purpose and cultural pride. This revival extends to domestic and public spaces, where Islamic geometric patterns, calligraphy, and natural forms are reappearing, fostering an environment steeped in meaning and beauty. Calligraphy, the quintessential Islamic art form, is experiencing a renaissance of its own. Master calligraphers are mentoring new generations of artists who see calligraphy not merely as ornamentation but as a spiritual discipline and a means of conveying profound truths. Exhibitions of Arabic calligraphy are drawing enthusiastic audiences around the world, and digital platforms have made this once guarded art form accessible to aspiring artists everywhere. The fusion of traditional calligraphy with digital media is producing innovative works that resonate with younger audiences, bridging the gap between past and present. Music and visual arts are also witnessing a creative revival. Muslim musicians are exploring ways to produce spiritually uplifting compositions that honor Islamic values while embracing modern genres. Nasheed artists are reaching global audiences, blending traditional melodies with contemporary sounds. Visual artists are using photography, film, and digital design to tell stories rooted in Islamic perspectives, challenging stereotypes and offering authentic representations of Muslim life. Social media platforms have become vital spaces for this cultural expression. Muslim influencers, content creators, and artists are using YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok to share their work, spark conversations, and foster a sense of global Muslim identity. These platforms enable Muslims from diverse backgrounds to celebrate their unique cultural expressions while finding common ground in shared faith. The democratization of media has empowered voices that were previously marginalized, enriching the tapestry of Muslim cultural life. The most profound dimension of this cultural renaissance lies in the reclamation of identity. For too long, Muslims in many parts of the world were made to feel that their faith and culture were obstacles to progress. Westernization was presented as the only path to modernity, leading many to suppress or abandon aspects of their heritage. Today, a growing number of Muslims are rejecting this false dichotomy. They are embracing an integrated identity in which being deeply rooted in Islam enhances, rather than hinders, their engagement with the modern world. This shift is especially evident among Muslim youth. Across universities, workplaces, and online communities, young Muslims are confidently expressing their Islamic identity through clothing, language, and creative pursuits. The revival of modest fashion is a striking example. Muslim designers and entrepreneurs are creating stylish, high-quality garments that honor Islamic principles of modesty while appealing to contemporary aesthetics. Modest fashion weeks in cities like London, Dubai, and Jakarta are drawing international attention, challenging stereotypes and redefining beauty standards. Education is also playing a critical role in this identity renaissance. Islamic schools and homeschooling networks are flourishing, providing curricula that integrate academic excellence with Islamic values. Parents are increasingly seeking out educational resources that nurture both the intellect and the soul, ensuring that the next generation grows up with a strong sense of who they are and where they come from. In this way, the cultural renaissance is not merely a celebration of the past. it is an investment in the future. The resurgence of language, arts, and identity across the Muslim world is a testament to the enduring vitality of Islamic civilization. It reflects a deep-seated desire to reclaim what was lost, to honor the wisdom of the past while engaging creatively with the present. This renaissance is weaving a new narrative in which Muslims can stand tall, rooted in their faith and culture, yet fully participating in the global human story. As this cultural awakening gathers momentum, it will continue to enrich the lives of Muslims and contribute to a more diverse and harmonious world. What we are witnessing is not a coincidence, but a reawakening of the Ummah's spirit through the timeless power of culture. At the heart of the Ummah's awakening lies a profound spiritual renewal, one that is defined by a sincere return to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. After a century marked by political upheaval, cultural displacement, and ideological confusion, Muslims across the world are rediscovering the wellspring of guidance that has sustained their civilization for over 14 centuries. This renewal is not being imposed by governments or driven by academic elites alone. It is rising organically from within the hearts of ordinary believers seeking deeper meaning, moral clarity, and spiritual nourishment in a world of increasing uncertainty. In times past, the Quran and Sunnah remained largely the domain of scholars and religious authorities. While respected, these sources were often distant from the daily lives of many Muslims, especially in societies where colonialism and secular ideologies had diminished the central role of faith in public and private life. Today, this is changing dramatically. There is an unprecedented thirst among Muslims of all backgrounds to engage directly with the Quran and to understand the Sunnah not as abstract ideals, but as practical guides for living with purpose and integrity. Across the Muslim world and in diasporic communities, Quranic literacy is rising. Study circles, both in person and online, are flourishing. Men and women, young and old, are coming together to read, reflect upon, and discuss the meanings of the Quran. This trend is fueled by a growing realization that the Quran is not a book to be placed on a shelf or reserved for ceremonial recitation, but a living conversation between the Creator and humanity. Muslims are embracing the message that the Quran is relevant to every facet of life: personal ethics, family relations, social justice, governance, environmental stewardship, and beyond. This awakening to the Quran's relevance has sparked a parallel movement toward greater understanding of the Sunnah. The life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is being revisited not simply through the lens of historical reverence, but as a timeless model of moral excellence and practical wisdom. Muslims are delving into the Hadith literature with a critical yet devotional spirit, seeking to extract lessons that can be applied to modern challenges. The Prophet's compassion, humility, justice, and dedication to service are being held up as counterweights to the materialism, selfishness, and moral relativism of contemporary society. One of the most remarkable features of this spiritual renewal is its rejection of extremism. The painful experiences of recent decades where violent ideologies hijacked Islamic discourse and caused untold suffering have led to a widespread disavowal of fanaticism. Muslims today are returning to the Quran and Sunnah with a balanced approach, seeking authentic interpretations rooted in the scholarly tradition while remaining attuned to the complexities of the modern world. There is a growing emphasis on wasatiyah, the middle path that reflects the Quran's call to moderation and balance. This renewal is also transforming the landscape of Islamic scholarship. Traditional centers of learning are being revitalized, and new institutions are emerging that combine deep grounding in classical texts with engagement in contemporary issues. The Internet has democratized access to Islamic knowledge, enabling seekers from every corner of the globe to learn from respected scholars and engage in meaningful dialogue. While this accessibility comes with challenges such as the spread of misinformation, it has also empowered countless Muslims to reclaim their religious understanding and practice. Personal spiritual practice is being reinvigorated. Prayer, fasting, charity, and remembrance of God are being embraced, not as empty rituals but as profound acts of devotion that cultivate inner peace and moral resilience. More Muslims are prioritizing regular recitation and contemplation of the Quran, finding in its verses a source of strength amid life's trials. The practice of remembrance of God is experiencing a revival as individuals and communities seek to anchor their hearts in the divine amidst the distractions of modern life. Alongside this resurgence of personal practice, communal expressions of faith are thriving. Ramadan, Hajj, and other religious observances are being approached with renewed vigor and spiritual depth. In many places, community iftars, shared prayers, and collective acts of charity are fostering a stronger sense of brotherhood and sisterhood. The mosque, once in decline in some regions, is re-emerging as a vibrant center of worship, learning, and social support. This spiritual renewal is not confined to traditional Muslim-majority countries. Across Europe, North America, and other regions where Muslims live as minorities, there is a vibrant return to the Quran and Sunnah. In these contexts, where identity is often challenged and faith must be consciously chosen and defended, the renewal takes on a particularly dynamic character. Converts to Islam are bringing fresh perspectives and enthusiasm, enriching the global Ummah with their insights and experiences. Muslim youth, growing up in multicultural environments, are reclaiming their faith with confidence, integrating Islamic values into their professional, academic, and civic lives. A key feature of this awakening is the deepening of ethical consciousness. Muslims are increasingly aware that faith must be expressed through character and conduct. The Quran and Sunnah emphasize virtues such as honesty, compassion, generosity, humility, and justice. These values are being championed in public discourse and embodied in grassroots initiatives. Whether through humanitarian work, environmental advocacy, or interfaith dialogue, Muslims are striving to live out the ethical teachings of their faith in tangible ways. This ethical renewal extends to the economic sphere. There is growing interest in Islamic finance, business ethics, and social entrepreneurship rooted in Quranic principles. Muslims are exploring how to build economies that serve the common good, combat exploitation, and foster equitable prosperity. The prohibition of riba, the emphasis on fair trade, and the encouragement of charitable giving are guiding the creation of financial models that align with Islamic values. Amidst all these developments, the role of spiritual mentorship is gaining recognition. Muslims are seeking guidance from scholars and spiritual teachers who exemplify the integration of knowledge and piety. The Sufi tradition, with its emphasis on inner purification and love of God, is experiencing a resurgence, offering a counterbalance to the superficiality and hyper-materialism of contemporary culture. This turn towards spiritual depth is helping many Muslims cultivate resilience, gratitude, and a sense of purpose. The return to the Quran and Sunnah is also fostering a renewed commitment to unity. Muslims are increasingly aware that sectarian divisions undermine the strength of the Ummah. The core message of the Quran calls for unity based on shared belief and mutual respect. Across differences of school, culture, and ethnicity, Muslims are finding common ground in their shared devotion to the Quran and the prophetic example. This spirit of unity is being nurtured through collaborative efforts, dialogues, and collective acts of worship and service. As the Ummah reawakens spiritually, it is becoming clear that this is not a passing trend but a profound transformation. It is rooted in the timeless message of the Quran and the enduring legacy of the Sunnah. It is animated by a deep longing for authenticity, meaning, and connection with the divine. In a world marked by confusion and fragmentation, Muslims are returning to their spiritual foundations with renewed vigor, seeking to embody the beauty, wisdom, and mercy of their faith. This spiritual renewal is the beating heart of the Ummah's awakening, guiding it toward a future of greater faithfulness, resilience, and hope. It is no coincidence but a sign of divine mercy unfolding in our time. In the story of the Ummah's awakening, one cannot overlook the extraordinary role technology is playing in knitting together a global community of believers. Where once physical distance, language barriers, and political divisions constrained the flow of ideas and solidarity among Muslims, the digital age has opened new frontiers of connection and collaboration. This technological revolution is not only amplifying the voice of the Ummah, but also enabling it to rediscover its unity and collective strength in ways that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. The rise of social media platforms has created vibrant spaces where Muslims from every corner of the world can share knowledge, express their faith, and support one another. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and newer platforms like TikTok have become virtual town squares where Islamic content flourishes. From Quranic recitations to scholarly lectures, from reflections on the Sunnah to stories of Muslim life, digital media now offers a rich tapestry of faith-based content accessible to anyone with an internet connection. This democratization of knowledge has allowed Muslims, particularly youth, to engage with their faith on their own terms and at their own pace, often bypassing traditional gatekeepers. Live streaming has transformed how Islamic events and educational initiatives reach audiences. Major conferences, Friday sermons, and even informal study circles are now broadcast to global audiences in real time. A khutbah delivered in Jakarta can inspire viewers in London or Cape Town moments after it is spoken. This instantaneous sharing of ideas fosters a sense of belonging to a worldwide ummah, reminding Muslims that they are part of a much larger spiritual family. During times of collective grief or triumph, such as natural disasters or significant moments in the Palestinian struggle, technology enables Muslims to respond with a unified voice, offering prayers, financial support, and moral solidarity across continents. Messaging apps like WhatsApp and Telegram have become indispensable tools for organizing community life. They facilitate everything from coordinating charitable drives to mobilizing political action to simply offering daily reminders of faith and encouragement. Groups dedicated to Quran study, Hadith reflection, and Islamic jurisprudence allow Muslims to learn and grow together despite being separated by vast distances. The intimacy and immediacy of these digital communities foster bonds that transcend geography and culture, reinforcing the sense of an interconnected ummah. Perhaps nowhere is the connective power of technology more evident than in the realm of education. Online platforms host an ever-expanding array of courses, webinars, and lectures on every imaginable aspect of Islam. World-renowned scholars can now reach students in remote villages and bustling cities alike, breaking down barriers of access that once privileged only a small segment of society. Recorded series on Quranic exegesis, biographies of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Islamic philosophy, and contemporary issues in Muslim life are consumed by millions, elevating collective literacy and awareness within the Ummah. The spread of digital Islamic media has also played a crucial role in countering misconceptions and misrepresentations of Islam. Muslims are increasingly producing high-quality content that speaks to global audiences, articulating their faith with confidence and clarity. This shift allows Muslims to reclaim the narrative about who they are and what they believe, challenging stereotypes and fostering mutual understanding. Technology empowers Muslims to be proactive in telling their own stories rather than remaining passive subjects of external portrayals. In times of crisis, technology has proven to be a lifeline for the global Ummah. The recent wars in Gaza, the persecution of the Rohingya and Uyghur Muslims, and humanitarian emergencies in Yemen and Syria have all been brought to the world's attention through the relentless efforts of digital activists. Hashtags become rallying cries, viral videos bear witness to injustices, and crowdfunding campaigns harness the compassion of millions. In such moments, technology enables the Ummah to act as a single body, responding to the suffering of its members with unity and resolve. Charitable organizations have embraced digital tools to expand their impact, Online platforms facilitate the collection and distribution of zakat and sadaqah with unprecedented efficiency and transparency. Donors can now contribute to causes across the globe with a few taps on their smartphones, and recipients can benefit from the collective generosity of Muslims worldwide. This technological bridge is revitalizing the institution of Islamic charity, making it a more potent force for alleviating suffering and promoting social justice. The younger generation of Muslims, digital natives by birth, are at the forefront of this technological awakening. They are adept at navigating online spaces, building communities, and leveraging technology for da'wah and activism. Muslim influencers and content creators are crafting messages that resonate with their peers, blending religious authenticity with cultural relevance. Through podcasts, blogs, vlogs, and interactive media, they are shaping a vibrant online discourse that reflects the dynamic spirit of the contemporary Ummah. Technology is also fostering greater intra-Muslim dialogue and cooperation. Muslims from diverse sectarian, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds are finding common ground through shared digital experiences. Online forums and collaborative projects encourage respectful engagement and mutual learning, helping to bridge divides that have long fragmented the Ummah. While challenges remain, including the spread of misinformation and the risk of superficial engagement, the overall impact of technology has been to foster a more connected, informed, and empowered Muslim community. As this digital revolution continues to evolve, its potential to further strengthen the bonds of the Ummah is immense. Innovations such as virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology are already being explored for their applications in Islamic education, heritage preservation, and charitable work. The ongoing integration of these tools will open new avenues for connection, creativity, and collective action. The role of technology in the awakening of the Ummah is a clear example of how divine wisdom operates through the means of human innovation. What was once a fragmented and isolated community is becoming a unified and engaged global body, capable of responding to the challenges and opportunities of the modern world with faith, intelligence, and compassion. This is not mere coincidence. It is part of a larger unfolding, a sign that the Ummah is indeed awakening, with technology serving as one of its most powerful instruments for renewal and unity. Among the many forces driving the current awakening of the Ummah, none is more vital or more promising than the energy and vision of its youth. Across continents and cultures, a new generation of Muslims is stepping forward with a renewed sense of purpose, identity, and confidence in their faith. These young men and women are not content to inherit a fractured legacy or to passively accept the narratives imposed upon them. They are shaping a new future, one that honors the timeless principles of Islam while engaging boldly with the complexities of the modern world. The demographic reality of the Muslim world underscores the significance of this youth-driven awakening. In many Muslim-majority countries, the majority of the population is under the age of 30. This youth bulge presents both immense opportunities and significant challenges. For decades, the potential of young Muslims was stifled by authoritarian regimes, inadequate education systems, and limited economic prospects. Yet today, empowered by unprecedented access to information, global networks, and innovative tools, Muslim youth are transforming these obstacles into opportunities for growth and leadership. Central to this transformation is a deepening of Islamic consciousness among young Muslims. Unlike earlier generations, who often experienced their faith as a cultural inheritance or a set of rituals disconnected from daily life, today's youth are seeking a more personal and profound connection to Islam. They are turning to the Quran and Sunnah with fresh eyes, eager to understand the moral and spiritual guidance these sources offer for contemporary challenges. This engagement is not superficial or reactionary. It reflects a thoughtful and dynamic process of exploration, learning, and internalization. The digital revolution has played a pivotal role in this spiritual reawakening. Through online lectures, podcasts, social media, and virtual communities, young Muslims have access to a wealth of Islamic knowledge that transcends geographic and sectarian boundaries. They are building global networks of scholarship, mentorship, and activism that foster a sense of belonging to a worldwide Ummah. These connections inspire solidarity and a shared sense of responsibility, motivating young Muslims to contribute meaningfully to both their local communities and the broader Muslim world. The new generation's engagement with activism is particularly striking. Confronted with global injustices, from the oppression of Palestinians to the plight of Uyghur Muslims to the refugee crises, Muslim youth are at the forefront of advocacy and humanitarian efforts. They harness the power of social media to raise awareness, mobilize resources, and influence public discourse. Their campaigns often go viral, transcending national boundaries and uniting Muslims in collective action. In doing so, they are reclaiming the prophetic tradition of standing against oppression and championing justice for all. In addition to activism, young Muslims are reshaping the cultural landscape of the Ummah. They are producing art, music, literature, and fashion that reflect their faith and values while engaging creatively with global trends. Through film, photography, and digital storytelling, they are challenging stereotypes and presenting authentic narratives of Muslim life. Their work fosters pride in Islamic identity and counters the pervasive Islamophobia that seeks to marginalize and dehumanize Muslims. The entrepreneurial spirit of Muslim youth is another driving force behind the Ummah's awakening. Across the Muslim world and in diaspora communities, young entrepreneurs are building businesses that align with Islamic ethics and contribute to social well-being. From halal fashion brands to Islamic fintech startups to socially conscious enterprises, they are demonstrating that economic success and spiritual integrity can go hand in hand. Their ventures not only provide livelihoods but also serve as platforms for positive cultural expression and community empowerment. Education remains a key pillar of the new generation's contribution. Many young Muslims are pursuing advanced studies in diverse fields, from science and technology to law and the humanities, with the intention of serving their communities and advancing the common good. They are bridging the gap between traditional Islamic scholarship and contemporary disciplines, fostering a holistic approach to knowledge that reflects the integrative vision of Islam. Through academic excellence and intellectual engagement, they are challenging outdated assumptions and contributing to the global marketplace of ideas. The role of young Muslim women in this awakening deserves special recognition. Across the globe, Muslim women are asserting their voices and leadership in unprecedented ways. They are scholars, activists, artists, entrepreneurs, and community leaders who embody the strength and dignity of Islamic womanhood. In the face of both external prejudices and internal challenges, they are redefining the role of women in the Ummah, drawing inspiration from the exemplary women of Islamic history. Their contributions are enriching the spiritual, intellectual, and social fabric of Muslim communities. Importantly, the youth-driven awakening is fostering a spirit of unity and inclusivity. While sectarianism, nationalism, and tribalism continue to pose challenges, many young Muslims are consciously working to transcend these divisions. They are cultivating a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood grounded in shared faith and common values. Through inter-community dialogues, collaborative initiatives, and inclusive spaces, they are nurturing an ethos of mutual respect and cooperation. As this new generation of Muslims comes of age, it faces daunting challenges: political instability, economic uncertainty, environmental crises, and cultural pressures. Yet the resilience, creativity, and faith of young Muslims offer profound hope for the future. They are not waiting for permission or validation from external forces. They are taking ownership of their destiny and shaping a new narrative for the Ummah. The awakening of the Muslim youth is not an isolated phenomenon or a fleeting trend. It is a manifestation of a deeper movement toward renewal and empowerment. Rooted in the Quran and Sunnah, informed by global awareness, and driven by a passion for justice and excellence, the new generation is carrying forward the torch of the Ummah's awakening. Their journey is a testament to the enduring vitality of Islam and the boundless potential of its adherents. Through their vision and efforts, the promise of a brighter, more unified, and more compassionate Ummah is coming into clearer view with each passing day. While the awakening of the Ummah is unmistakable and deeply inspiring, it would be naive to believe that this resurgence is unfolding without resistance or complication. The path towards spiritual, cultural, and political renewal is fraught with formidable challenges that threaten to derail or distort the movement if not met with wisdom and resilience. Among the most persistent obstacles are internal divisions that continue to fracture the unity of Muslims across the world. Despite the Quran's clear command to hold fast to the rope of Allah and not be divided, sectarianism, nationalism, and tribalism still plague many communities. Historical grievances, doctrinal disputes, and political manipulation have left deep scars that are not easily healed. These divisions are often exacerbated by external actors who find in them a convenient tool to weaken Muslim solidarity and resistance. In many countries, governments deliberately inflame sectarian tensions to consolidate power or to serve the interests of foreign patrons. The resulting mistrust and hostility within the Ummah make collective action difficult and often divert energy away from the higher goals of justice, compassion, and spiritual excellence. Geopolitical interference remains another major obstacle to the Ummah's awakening. The Muslim world occupies regions of immense strategic and economic importance, making it a perennial target of foreign intervention. From military invasions to covert operations, from economic sanctions to cultural subversion, external powers have consistently sought to shape the political and social landscape of Muslim societies to suit their own interests. These interventions not only cause immediate harm but also sow long-term instability, making it difficult for authentic indigenous movements to flourish. The constant meddling erodes trust in governance, fosters dependency, and often co-opts promising initiatives before they can reach maturity. The role of global media in this dynamic cannot be overstated. For decades, mainstream media outlets have propagated distorted and negative portrayals of Islam and Muslims. These portrayals serve to justify foreign policies that harm Muslim societies while also undermining the confidence of Muslims themselves. Internalizing such narratives can lead to self-doubt and disunity, weakening the moral resolve needed for true awakening. Even within Muslim media landscapes, the influence of commercialism and sensationalism often drowns out voices of wisdom and constructive discourse. The challenge lies in creating and supporting media platforms that reflect the dignity, depth, and diversity of the Islamic tradition. Perhaps one of the most insidious threats to the awakening is the specter of extremism. In response to decades of oppression and injustice, some Muslims have been drawn to ideologies that promise quick and decisive change through violence and absolutism. While the overwhelming majority of Muslims reject such approaches, the damage inflicted by extremist groups has been profound. Their actions not only cause direct harm but also provide ammunition to those who wish to demonize Islam as a whole. The presence of extremism complicates efforts to build inclusive, compassionate, and morally grounded movements for renewal. It is a constant challenge for Muslim leaders, educators, and communities to articulate a vision of Islam that is both faithful to its principles and responsive to the complexities of the modern world, while vigilantly guarding against the allure of extremism. Socioeconomic challenges further complicate the landscape. In many Muslim-majority countries, widespread poverty, unemployment, and lack of access to quality education stifle human potential and breed despair. These conditions make it difficult for individuals to focus on spiritual growth or civic engagement, as the struggle for basic survival takes precedence. Moreover, economic hardship often fuels resentment and radicalization, creating fertile ground for divisive ideologies. Addressing these issues requires systemic change and long-term commitment to building just and inclusive societies that provide all citizens with opportunities to thrive. Corruption within political and religious institutions also poses a significant obstacle. When leaders, whether in government or in the religious sphere, abuse their positions for personal gain, they erode public trust and disillusion the very people they are meant to serve. Corruption undermines the credibility of Islamic governance and tarnishes the image of the faith itself. Combating this requires not only legal reforms but also a cultural shift toward greater accountability, transparency, and ethical leadership grounded in the prophetic example. Another challenge lies in the realm of education. While access to information has greatly expanded, the quality and integrity of education in many Muslim societies remain uneven. Outdated curricula, lack of critical thinking, and insufficient emphasis on ethical and spiritual development leave many young Muslims ill-equipped to navigate the modern world with confidence and moral clarity. Moreover, the secular bias in many educational systems often alienates students from their own religious and cultural heritage. Reforming education to foster a balanced and holistic understanding of Islam alongside academic excellence is crucial for nurturing a generation capable of sustaining the awakening. The rapid pace of technological change presents its own set of challenges. While technology has empowered Muslims to connect, learn, and organize, it has also introduced new forms of distraction, superficiality, and moral erosion. The constant barrage of entertainment, consumerism, and digital noise can dull spiritual awareness and undermine the discipline required for personal and communal growth. Furthermore, online spaces are rife with misinformation, ideological manipulation, and toxic discourse, which can easily derail sincere efforts at renewal. Navigating this digital landscape with wisdom and intentionality is an ongoing challenge for the Ummah. Globalization, while offering opportunities for cross-cultural exchange and economic growth, also brings the risk of cultural homogenization. The relentless promotion of secular, materialistic values through global media and consumer culture exerts a powerful influence, particularly on young Muslims. This can lead to identity confusion, spiritual apathy, and a disconnection from Islamic values and traditions. Countering this requires a robust affirmation of Islamic identity that is both rooted in tradition and responsive to contemporary realities. It involves cultivating spaces, both physical and digital, where Muslims can experience the beauty and relevance of their faith in everyday life. Finally, the psychological legacy of colonization and historical trauma continues to cast a shadow over the collective psyche of the Ummah. Centuries of subjugation, exploitation, and cultural erasure have left wounds that manifest in feelings of inferiority, disempowerment, and internalized division. Healing this trauma requires more than political or economic solutions. It demands a deep spiritual and cultural reclamation of dignity, confidence, and purpose. It involves reconnecting with the profound wisdom, resilience, and creativity of the Islamic tradition, and fostering a narrative of hope and empowerment for future generations. Despite these formidable challenges, the awakening of the Ummah continues to advance. The resilience and vitality of the Muslim spirit, nurtured by the timeless guidance of the Quran and Sunnah, remains stronger than any obstacle. Recognizing and addressing these challenges with wisdom, patience, and collective effort is essential for ensuring that the current awakening fulfills its promise. The journey ahead will not be easy, but it is one that the Ummah is prepared to undertake with faith, courage, and a deep commitment to the principles that have guided it for over 14 centuries. This awakening is not an accident. It is the unfolding of a divine wisdom that calls Muslims to rise above their divisions and trials, to embody the best of their faith, and to contribute to the betterment of humanity as a whole. Amid the many challenges facing the Muslim world today, countless stories of hope emerge that offer powerful testimony to the resilience, creativity, and faith of the Ummah. These stories, unfolding across diverse regions and circumstances, illustrate how Muslims are drawing on the timeless wisdom of their tradition to confront adversity, build thriving communities, and contribute positively to the wider world. They remind us that the awakening of the Ummah is not an abstract idea but a lived reality, manifested in the everyday actions of countless individuals and communities. One of the most moving and globally unifying stories comes from Palestine. For decades, the Palestinian people have endured occupation, displacement, and systematic oppression. Yet despite this, their spirit remains unbroken. The resilience of Palestinian society, particularly in Gaza, stands as a testament to the power of faith and collective solidarity. Under siege and in the face of immense hardship, Palestinians continue to preserve their cultural identity, uphold their religious values, and foster educational and artistic excellence. Quranic memorization competitions, thriving poetry circles, and grassroots charitable initiatives flourish even in the most challenging conditions. The global Muslim community, in turn, has responded with an outpouring of support, uniting across sectarian and national divides to advocate for justice and provide humanitarian aid. This solidarity has reinforced a sense of shared purpose and destiny within the Ummah. Another story of hope is found in Turkey, where the interplay between modern statehood and Islamic identity continues to evolve. Over the past 2 decades, there has been a notable resurgence of Islamic culture and practice in public life. Mosques are being restored and built, Islamic education has regained prominence, and the works of classical Ottoman scholars and poets are being rediscovered and celebrated. At the same time, Turkey's dynamic civil society fosters a spirit of innovation and engagement, with young Muslims leading initiatives in fields as diverse as technology, environmental conservation, and humanitarian relief. This synthesis of faith and modernity offers a compelling model for other Muslim societies seeking to navigate the complexities of the contemporary world while remaining true to their spiritual and cultural roots. In Southeast Asia, Malaysia and Indonesia present further inspiring examples. Both countries have demonstrated that it is possible to develop vibrant, pluralistic societies where Islamic values inform public life in ways that promote social harmony and inclusivity. In Malaysia, the halal industry has grown into a global leader, reflecting the integration of Islamic ethical principles into the economy. Islamic finance continues to innovate, providing alternatives to conventional financial systems that align with principles of justice and shared prosperity. In Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim-majority nation, grassroots movements are fostering a dynamic form of Islam that emphasizes tolerance, community service, and environmental stewardship. Initiatives such as Pesantren eco-Islamic boarding schools combine religious education with environmental awareness, preparing a new generation of Muslims to be both devout and ecologically responsible citizens. The stories of Muslim minorities in the West further illustrate the global dimension of the Ummah's awakening. In Europe and North America, Muslims are increasingly asserting their identity and contributing positively to the societies in which they live. In the face of Islamophobia and discrimination, they have built vibrant communities centered around mosques, Islamic centers, and cultural institutions. Young Muslims are entering fields such as law, medicine, academia, and media, where they work to dispel stereotypes and advocate for justice and inclusion. The success of Muslim politicians, artists, and entrepreneurs serves as an inspiration to younger generations, showing that it is possible to remain faithful to one's beliefs while excelling in diverse professional and civic arenas. The revival of Islamic arts and culture also offers many stories of hope. Across the Muslim world, a new generation of artists, calligraphers, musicians, and filmmakers is drawing on the rich heritage of Islamic civilization to create works that resonate with contemporary audiences. They are reclaiming narratives, challenging stereotypes, and celebrating the beauty of their faith through creative expression. In doing so, They foster a renewed sense of pride and belonging among Muslims and open avenues for meaningful dialogue with broader audiences. Initiatives such as international Islamic arts festivals and online platforms dedicated to Islamic creativity are helping to amplify these voices and connect artists across borders. Education remains a powerful driver of hope. In countries like Egypt, Jordan, and Morocco, as well as across the Muslim diaspora, there is a concerted effort to revitalize Islamic education and scholarship. Institutions, both traditional and modern, are embracing curricula that integrate classical Islamic sciences with contemporary disciplines, preparing students to address the challenges of the modern world with intellectual rigor and spiritual depth. Online platforms have made high-quality Islamic education accessible to millions, fostering a global community of learners committed to the pursuit of knowledge and the betterment of society. Humanitarian efforts led by Muslim organizations offer further cause for optimism. From providing emergency relief in conflict zones to supporting long-term development projects in impoverished areas, Muslim charities are embodying the Quranic injunction to serve humanity with compassion and integrity. Organizations like Islamic Relief, Human Appeal, and countless local initiatives demonstrate the capacity of the Ummah to mobilize resources and expertise for the common good. These efforts not only alleviate suffering but also strengthen bonds of solidarity within the global Muslim community. Ultimately, these diverse stories converge to illustrate a profound truth. The awakening of the Ummah is not a uniform or centralized process, but a mosaic of countless local initiatives and personal journeys. It is driven by the faith, resilience, and creativity of ordinary Muslims who, inspired by the Quran and the Sunnah, strive to embody the highest values of their tradition in a rapidly changing world. Each act of kindness, each initiative for justice, each creative endeavor contributes to the unfolding narrative of hope and renewal. As these stories multiply and intersect, they weave a tapestry of faith and purpose that transcends borders and unites the Ummah in its shared quest for a brighter future. In this unfolding story, there is ample reason to believe that what is happening across the Muslim world today is no coincidence, but the stirring of a collective spirit guided by divine wisdom and destined to inspire generations to come. As the Muslim world stands on the threshold of a new era, the question arises: what lies ahead for the Ummah? The signs of awakening are undeniable, woven through the political, cultural, spiritual, and technological fabric of Muslim life across the globe. Yet this awakening is not an end in itself, but the beginning of a journey that will require steadfast commitment, vision, and unity to reach its full potential. The future holds both extraordinary promise and formidable challenges, and the choices made by the Ummah in the coming years will determine whether this moment becomes a fleeting resurgence or the foundation of lasting renewal. The first and most vital task ahead is the deepening of spiritual consciousness. As the heart of the awakening, the return to the Quran and Sunnah must remain the guiding force in all endeavors. The temptation to reduce this awakening to mere cultural pride or political assertion must be resisted. The spiritual core of Islam's call to worship the one God, cultivate personal virtue, and serve humanity must permeate every aspect of the Ummah's life. This requires nurturing authentic scholarship, fostering vibrant communities of learning and worship, and supporting individuals in their quest for inner transformation. Equally important is the pursuit of unity. The divisions that have long fragmented the Ummah cannot be allowed to derail this awakening. Healing the wounds of sectarianism, nationalism, and ethnic strife demands a conscious commitment to the Quranic principle of brotherhood and sisterhood. This unity must be rooted not in uniformity, but in mutual respect, compassion, and a shared commitment to justice and the common good. The global connectivity afforded by technology offers unprecedented opportunities to foster this spirit of unity, enabling Muslims to collaborate across borders and differences in pursuit of shared goals. The next phase of the awakening must also address the pressing socio-economic challenges that afflict many Muslim societies. Poverty, inequality, corruption, and lack of opportunity sap the strength of the Ummah and fuel cycles of despair and division. Building just and compassionate economies that reflect Islamic values of fairness, generosity, and stewardship is an urgent priority. This involves not only reforming financial systems but also promoting ethical entrepreneurship, empowering marginalized communities, and ensuring that the fruits of development are shared equitably. The role of education in shaping the future cannot be overstated. The Ummah must invest in educational systems that integrate the timeless wisdom of the Islamic tradition with the best of contemporary knowledge. Critical thinking, creativity, and ethical discernment must be cultivated alongside spiritual and moral formation. This holistic approach to education will prepare young Muslims to navigate the complexities of the modern world with integrity and purpose, equipping them to be both faithful servants of God and responsible global citizens. The global context in which the Ummah moves forward will continue to present challenges. Geopolitical instability, cultural pressures, and ideological attacks will persist. Yet the resilience demonstrated by Muslims across the world in recent years offers hope that these obstacles can be met with courage and wisdom. The ability of the Ummah to tell its own story, to project a vision of Islam rooted in compassion, justice, and human dignity, will be crucial in countering misinformation and fostering understanding in an often hostile environment. Ultimately, what lies ahead for the Ummah is not determined by external forces, but by the choices and actions of Muslims themselves. The awakening now underway is a trust and a test, a divine opportunity to realign the community with its higher purpose. It calls for humility, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of Islam. If embraced with sincerity and guided by wisdom, this awakening can usher in an era of profound renewal in which the Ummah not only restores its own vitality, but also contributes meaningfully to the broader human family. The signs are clear, the momentum is building, and the path forward, though challenging, is illuminated by the light of faith. What is happening across the Muslim world today is no coincidence. It is a chapter in the ongoing story of a community that has, time and again, drawn upon the eternal wellspring of its tradition to rise anew. The task now is to nurture this awakening with all the care, devotion, and resolve it deserves, so that the Ummah may fulfill its God-given role as a beacon of mercy, justice, and truth in an ever-changing world.